Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this YouTube channel. I'm Ethan,
I am Matthew Posner.
and what are we doing today?
Talking about sports.
Yep, today we have actually created our own YouTube channel, so welcome to it. We'll be continuing our podcast here. We're going to be kind of moving away from our high school affiliate, WCAT The Den, and moving here to our YouTube channel as we are now really unable to do actual podcasts from school because obviously we're stuck at home. So now I get to see our beautiful faces whenever we're doing this. Can add a little bit more entertainment somehow, some way. And for here, we're just going to introduce ourselves, and we'll just start off with, why the heck are you wearing a Jacksonville hat, and why am I wearing Dolphin stuff all the time? So we're going to explain why the heck we're these two random fans born and raised in Chicago, and yet we're still a Dolphins fan and a Jaguars fan. So Matthew, you can start off with your backstory.
All right, so my grandparents grew up in the Jacksonville area, and when I was born back in 2004, they decided they wanted to move up here so they could be closer to us, and they brought with them a whole bunch of Jacksonville Jaguars stuff. And even though they weren't fans of the Jags, I grew into the whole Jags fandom and became a huge fan of the team. I obviously don't like where we currently stand, but I'm going to forever love the Jaguars for my entire life.
All right, and then mine is kind of a little bit more wild because I'm a Dolphins fan because I actually don't really have family connections, which to a sports fan is like, what the heck, that's unfair, that's not allowed to happen. Your only excuse is supposed to have a family connection or some type of connection, where I don't really have a connection to them directly. I just like the animal dolphin. Just growing up as a kid, that was like my number one animal because I know everyone has their spirit animal. Mine was a dolphin growing up. And it's all because I went to SeaWorld when I was a kid, and I just saw the dolphins and fell in love with them. And then after that, I thought I was just going to become a marine biologist. I was like big hyped about that. I love to learn about those marine animals. And then I also still had my passion for sports growing up because I was super competitive. So when I actually found out as a kid there was such thing as a Dolphins team, I had to bandwagon them as soon as I heard of them because I was just in such high spirits. Now was like the perfect time. And then me being a loyal fan, it's been since 2008, do the math, probably 12 years. I've been a Dolphins fan, so it's been a very, very long time. I've been very loyal to them, despite all of my family being Bears fans and Chicago fans and everything else compared to us. But I'm still a big Dolphins fan, and that's just been something I've been loyal to. That shows my loyalty, and that's why I'm a big Dolphins fan. So, do you have let's talk about have you ever really been to any games, or what's your favorite experience, or like watching? Like, what's your favorite memory about your sports team, meaning the Jacksonville Jaguar?
Well, I've never been to a Jaguars game, unfortunately, because the only times they've been here in Chicago, it was absolutely freezing in like November and December, and I'm not doing that. But my favorite memory, obviously, was the 2017-18 season, one of the greatest years probably of my lifetime, at least in terms of sports, when we made it all the way to the AFC Championship. The whole Saxonville franchise was born, in a sense. You know, that was definitely the most proud moment for our franchise. And then Tom Brady had to go ahead and destroy all of our hopes and dreams, which is very similar to something that you can agree to. If there's one thing me and him can agree on, it's that we both hate Tom Brady's guts. Maybe not so much now, but definitely back then. You know, just we were so good then, and that was really like the highlight of our franchise. And now we're back in rebuild state.
Yeah, but it just sucks for you. I mean, for me, I've been lucky enough to be a big traveler, so I've been all over the place. I've been to plenty of NFL stadiums. Just to name a few, I've been on the field. I've been in the Seattle Seahawks stadium. Like, I walked on the field. I walked on the old Dallas Cowboys stadium. I've been to Baltimore, Cleveland. I've been to their entire division. I've been to everywhere except for the Dolphin Stadium because that's just my luck. The tickets to Miami are too expensive, as we say, so I've been to everywhere that's kind of near here, except for, those random things, like I've been to the Seattle Stadium. But I've been to a ton of stadiums. It's my favorite game, though, I have to say, because I've been to 5 Dolphins games. I've been to one in Atlanta, Cleveland, Minnesota, Chicago, and then one in Tennessee. So I've been to plenty of games. I've also been to, make you jealous, I've also went to a Colts-Jaguars game. So that's my 6th NFL game that I've been to. I've been to more Jaguars games than you, sadly, but my favorite one by far has to be the Atlanta one that I have because despite Jay Cutler being our quarterback, it was still a very, very interesting time because that was the one wacky seasons the Dolphins had, and it was just by far my favorite because the Dolphins. I went with my neighbor who was a Falcons fan, Keith. He was, which we may have him come on one of these podcasts one of these days, but me and him went down to Atlanta for a game. It was Dolphins versus the Falcons in Atlanta, and we went to the new stadium. It was the first stadium for Mercedes-Benz, so it was super, super nice. The Dolphins, when the game happened, the Dolphins went and were down right away as they usually do. Went down 13-0 at half. I was about to lose my mind. I just wanted to leave the stadium, as everyone else in the stadium, including Keith, was high in heaven. And then magically, Jay Cutler decided he was going to play football and led a huge comeback. And then the Dolphins were up, I think it was 20-17. And then Matt Ryan had one final drive to try and chase the opportunity. Then Rashad Jones had that game-winning interception. And, man, I was like, that's one of my happiest moments I've been in my life. I mean, I was out cheering. There was a guy below me that was just dancing. I have a little video of him, a little Dolphins fan, because there was a mix of fans in there. I think there's about as many Dolphins fans as Falcons fans in there because such a trash team, because both teams were not the greatest at the time. None of them were playoff contenders, but that was by far my favorite game I've been to. I mean, I've been to plenty. My overall record is 2-3, sadly, because the last two games I've gone to, Minnesota and Cleveland, they've been creamed because Dolphins have not been the greatest this year. But it is promising, and, I mean, if I am going to go to another game, the Dolphins are versing no one near here. The closest is Denver, and that's very, very far. So we'll see if this season still happens with fans, too, with all that jazz, and if I'm able to even have an opportunity to go. But if I do, I will try to go out west because I don't really get to go out there often, and that's all depending on if these plane tickets are that expensive. But that's my favorite game, and now I have to ask – and one more thing is, who is your favorite player of all time? I got to ask.
All right, well, I have multiple different answers, so where do I start? I'm going to go with a Jaguars player because I feel like that is just the way to go with this. Blake Bortles. And the reason I choose Blake Bortles is because I am also a giant UCF fan for college football, and when he went there, I was like, I would want this guy to be on Jacksonville. And then they draft him, and it was like my two worlds collided. And Bortles led our team to the greatest year in franchise history. And so I can't really – yes, our defense is really good. But if people don't remember that Steelers divisional game, he blew the roof off the place with that offense. And the offense was the reason we won that game. And so, Blake Bortles I don't think ever got the credit he deserved. Huge fan of his. I just wish he was still starting somewhere. I think that if teams were willing to give him a chance, he'd be up there with some of the best backups in the league, trust me. I think that he was the reason that really gave our franchise some hope, and then obviously it never really worked out. But Bortles was really a good quarterback for the year that we needed him for, and so I'm pleased to say that he's one of my favorite players, if not my favorite player of all time.
For me, I mean, there's one player that's always stuck out personally, which was when I first started playing or being a real fan, when my fandom really, really grew for the Dolphins, it was Cameron Wake. I mean, just watching him sack every single game. I think my favorite moment by far was when it was like Halloween night. It was like the Dolphins versus Cincinnati was on Thursday Night Football, and they went to overtime. It was a very, very great game, and then out of nowhere, I think they were in overtime, and Andy Dalton was on his the 1 yard line, and then magically out of the left side, Cameron Wake comes flying, gets a safety, and wins the game out of nowhere for the Dolphins. I think that was my greatest moment for him, watching him do that. That was amazing, where a defensive player literally won the game in overtime for a defensive end, which that never happens really, because it's usually offense for the type of overtime the NFL has. But ever since then, he's been my favorite defensive player he did get traded to Tennessee, which was heartbreaking for me. I didn't really want to see him in any other jersey, kind of like all these Patriots fans are freaking out about seeing Brady in a Bucs jersey. But I was kind of sad during that. But Cameron Wake has really stuck out for there, and I think any other Dolphins fan too knows that if Dan Marino is not your favorite player, then you're not a real Dolphins player. I didn't really grow up with him, but I understand that he was one of the best quarterbacks to ever play for Miami. I know he's been great. I have a really cool jersey of him, but I think for now I have to say, just because of my memories and all the stuff that I personally have had, I think Cameron Wake has to be my favorite player. Just
I
by
would say that's a definitely valid answer there. I would think that, I'll throw an honorable mention out there. If I was not going to pick a Jags player, it has to be the legend of Fitzmagic, right? Like just seeing I love journeyman quarterbacks. It's just like the story of watching them play in literally every team. And Fitzpatrick is literally the journeyman of the league. He's been everywhere, and he's always had his magical moments with different teams. Buffalo, New York, especially now Miami and Tampa, where I think you can even consider this his prime, if you will. He's playing the best football he's played. Honestly, though, he's playing the best football he's ever played. And so I think one of the big questions we'll discuss next week, a little hint in there for you, is do the Dolphins end up drafting Tua, or do they stick with or surprise everybody and stick with no quarterback? We'll see. Well, no quarterback, but Fitzmagic. Yeah.
We'll stick
a little teaser
predictions until then. But I mean, if I also had an honorable mention, God, who would be my favorite player besides anyone on the Dolphins? I think probably as much as I hate saying I might have been a bandwagon, I do love Larry Fitz. He's been one of my other players that I've been really watching. I became a bandwagon Cardinals fan during that magical run with Kurt Warner and all them. I was cheering for them. Sadly, they didn't win the Super Bowl that year against those Steelers and Troy Polamalu and that Jameis Harrison thing I watched. That was, I think, my first ever Super Bowl I've ever really watched. I mean, my first memory of a Super Bowl was when the Bears made it, because obviously I had a party at my house. That's when they were trying to get me to become a Bears fan. There is pictures of me wearing Urlacher's jerseys because I was wearing that. But at the time, I wasn't really knowing if I was a Bears fan or not. But then I grew onto the Dolphins thing. But I think Larry Legend is Larry Legend for at least football, not for basketball. Larry Fitz has been one of the favorite players. He's very humble, shows some great spirit, and he's actually very, very good. If you've seen the stats, for those who don't know, I mean, Larry Fitz has more tackles than dropped passes. That is unbelievable for a wide receiver to do that, especially in this day and age. So it's crazy to see that this guy is still playing in the NFL, and I'm enjoying it as this may be his last season. But he's probably my honorable mention for that extra player. But so we both gave our honorable mentions. I gotta ask. I know we know our favorite things, but at least sporting wise, what can you name the order of your favorite sports so we know what sports you're the favorite of? I mean, like NFL, MLB. What is your favorite sport? Can you put them in order? We'll go from top to bottom.
Yeah. I'm gonna just make sure college athletics gets their spot in here too.
What do you most watch?
NFL is by far where I'm all in most amount of content and time put into the NFL, for sure. Then it's college basketball. But I think that we're going to start to see, as we saw with Jalen Green and stuff, that we'll talk about that. There's concerns that how long the NCAA can last without it kind of just flopping. NBA is third. I would say college football is fourth. Not a big baseball or hockey guy. I would put hockey over baseball. And something that I think people don't realize is that if they shorten the MLB season, they would gain so many fans, in my opinion. But because of how many games it is, it's just not entertaining for me personally.
Okay, and then for me, I mean, I'm kind of similar as you. That's why we get along so well, is because I love watching the NFL. The NFL is pretty much by far I put in the most. And then it used to be, I used to watch NHL a ton. And I just found March Madness, and I fell in love with that. So then March Madness kind of surpassed my NHL love for all that jazz. So now I probably goes NFL, then college basketball, just because of how crazy it's been the last few years. And then I'll go to the NHL because I love watching all those. I mean, hockey can be very, very entertaining. It's one of the most exciting sports, in my opinion, because there's not many stoppages. And I also live in a household where my dad constantly screams at the TV 24/7 anytime there's a Hawks game. So I'm kind of surrounded by that. I mean, if there's one team he watches the most, it is the Blackhawks. So that's kind of merged into me as I watch a little bit more hockey. And then I'm going to go straight to baseball. Sorry. I do not really watch the NBA as much as possible. Not because I don't know. I've just never really been a fond fan of that. So if you ever get into those discussions about the NBA and you hear some vague reasons why I like a team or someone, you'll know why, because I don't really pay attention to them as much. But I have MLB as higher than them because I love going to the MLB games. And then baseball in general, minor league teams, I'm a huge fan of. I know I have a bunch of just random T-shirts because the names for minor league teams are amazing, and they're actually pretty decent. I know the games can be long, their season can be long, but when you actually get to go to one of the games, it's pretty fun to watch. Passes time every once in a while. So it's basically fun when you get to go to the baseball games. And then the playoff baseball can be shortened, but it's also can be intense, especially if the Cubs actually make the playoffs, because they've been struggling to do that last few years. But that's them. And then obviously the last few are like the NASCARs, the PGAs, and all that are towards the bottom. So.
Oh, I forgot about golf. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No.
Big time golf guy. So we got to put that somewhere up there. I would say I would put it right below NBA in terms of fandom here. I know it's like one of those sports that people either love it or you hate it and you can't stand to watch it. I'm one of those people who will sit here and watch golf for hours on end. Honestly, I don't
know if I could do that.
I don't get it. I don't know why. It's just one of those things that always entertains me.
I don't know. And then before we go, I know we shared our favorite NFL teams. I know we talk a lot about that. You want to share some other of your favorite teams? Just so.
Oh, yes, because I have a wide variety of interesting teams here.
I know you're just as bad as me.
All right, so Jaguars, as you know, as you can already tell, favorite NFL team. Favorite NBA team, Denver Nuggets, and I'll explain here real quick why. When I watched Melo and AI back when I was younger than now, just watching them two play, really liked watching them play, and I just kind of became a fan of them. I really don't have a good reason as to why I'm a Nuggets fan. Just love watching Melo and AI back when Melo was in his prime and AI was reaching the end of his career, but still entertaining. MLB, I'm a White Sox fan, mainly because my grandparents are too. NHL, I really don't have a favorite team, but I can tell you, if there was one thing that I watch, it's playoff hockey because it gets really entertaining. And I will always and forever root for the Vegas Knights because of just how incredible that whole thing is. So just watching that whole first-year run with Vegas is remarkable still. I still can't believe it to this day. And then I don't have favorite golfers, so I don't really know where to go on that one.
What about college basketball since that's super, super high? I mean, I know.
Okay, well, that one's easy. Like, that's not even a question. UMBC. No way there isn't a team I'd rather root for more than UMBC. Come on. Them and Loyola are so high up on my list because of just their incredible runs, and you just want to see teams like that back in it again.
All right, and then for my favorite teams, I mean, I know I'm a Dolphins fan, and you heard that backstory. Probably the more weirder story is that I am a Anaheim Ducks fan for hockey. That's a pretty wild one. My stuff I got right here, my little cutout that I did back then, but for those who don't know, I'm kind of random, and how I find my favorite sports teams. As when I was also a kid, I used to go to Indian Trails Library, the library near where we are, and we used to go there all the time, and then go and rent out the newest sporting games because that's how it was. You don't have the magic of going online buying the games. You used to go to the library to find the newest game. We used to always go to like our nearest library to go get the newest NHL game because in my opinion that was like my favorite Wii game that we had was the NHL ones. And whenever I played, I always played as one team, and that was the Ducks because I fell in love with their colors that I love, and I know it's just super random. And then my favorite player was Perry because at the time I watched a bunch of Phineas and Ferb, and Perry the Platypus was my favorite player or favorite guy. So it was that stupid random connection for some reason that I had as a kid, and for some reason it stuck with me because it's just so random and loyalty is so random. So that's why I'm stuck with these Ducks people. So those have been my top two. And then college basketball, I know obviously UMBC. I gotta pull it all out for you guys.
Oh, here we go.
I've got everything. I've got myself a UMBC sweatshirt because that's just how I am. But I'm also a big Oregon fan, just because I also like their colors because they're bright, and I love wearing those bright colors, especially as a kid. That's what I've been into. So, I mean, having Oregon, so college basketball, even a little bit of college football, throw that in there. I'm a big Oregon guy. I've been cheering for them. Sadly, I'm not going to Oregon University because it's expensive and it's across the entire country, and I don't know if I'm used to that. But I'm stuck here, but I'll still cheer for my Oregon Ducks from here. And then MLB,
you got to be careful in Butler with Oregon. You got to be careful, man.
I know I got to be careful wearing this stuff now, but I don't really care at this point. I'll wear it no matter what. That's how I'll make friends, but or enemies. We'll see. And then for MLB, I'm the opposite of you. I'm a Indeed Cubs fan, as you can see right over there. right above my fish tank that I have. I I have been a Cubs fan for that. That is the one team my parents actually successfully bandwagoned me onto. I did stick with that as there really was no other MLB team. I mean, I was a bit of a Milwaukee Brewers fan too, just to throw that in for a few years. But just because if I could have chosen my favorite player ever, it would have been Ryan Braun, because that's who I loved watching as a kid. But Cubs have been there for a little while. I've been Cubs fan for a decent amount. As like I said, I switched between Milwaukee and Chicago for a few years, but I'm proud to say I'm a Cubs fan now. So I may be considered a bandwagon after 2016, but still, I think I was a fan before that during their other runs, because I went to a bunch of games because that's all we did. And then NBA, God, I said MLB again. NBA, unlike just like you in the NHL, I don't really have a favorite team. Just wild, because I don't really know. I have not watched enough. I don't want to bandwagon a random team and then get yelled at anyone. I mean, the Bulls suck right now, so I can't even bandwagon for them. So it's like, I don't know who to go after. So I'm just kind of cheering for the underdog, as I know me and you are both big underdog guys. We don't really care who wins. We always just cheer for the people who have the underdog opportunities. But that's what I have. And in golf, I don't even know. I could name one golfer, and that's Tiger Woods. Who knows?
There you go. You already know all you need to know. You're already good.
I know one person. That's because ESPN shoves it down my throat. So that's the only person. And
there you go. That's good. That's all you need to know. As long as you know who Tiger Woods is, you're in a good spot.
Okay. for your golf guys saving me, but
I could probably name 100, but again, that's not, well, this isn't a competition, as they say.
Yes, but oh well, this has been our introduction, a little bit, get to know us. So just so you guys have a little bit more background to know why these random kids are just talking about all this random stuff, and why you guys should believe us, and why we may side with teams like Miami and Jacksonville, even though we're from Chicago. So thanks for tuning in, and I really hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and stay safe, and stay tuned for all of our episodes that we're going to be uploading very, very soon. Later.
Stay tuned. Later.